AHumbleSoul, we checking in, you know what I'm saying? Um, Man, for the last few days, I've been just thinking about all of the unsolved hip hop murders that have taken place over the years, you know what I'm saying, in different cities across America. From New York to Los Angeles to New Orleans. Man, the list goes on, Atlanta, Chicago. There have been a lot of artists who have fallen victim to gun violence, and it just seems like, you know what I'm saying, more often than not, it's it's when they're climbing, you know what I'm saying, when they're making a transition in their rap career, when they're reaching new heights, when they're finally succeeding. And sometimes they've already reached that success and they just get taken out, you know what I'm saying, which is, either way, it's unfortunate, but it's been on my mind more and more just seeing these artists continue to be killed, from people like the Lil Marlows, more recent, the FBG Ducks, and the list goes on. So I thought it would be dope just to continue to, just to pay homage to the fallen soldiers in this rap industry, man. I thought it would only be right to kick it off with a video on none other than the Bay Area rap legend Mac Dre. He's another person who was snatched from the music game, you know what I'm saying, due to gun violence. To this day, there hasn't been anybody officially charged with his murder. To be honest, when he was alive, I wasn't really hip to his music. It wasn't until, years after he passed that I got hip to him. I was coming up in the South, and although I was familiar with the Bay Area, I wasn't as heavy on Mac Dre as I was on some of the other artists. But it was like around the time I got to college, man, I really developed, an appreciation for what he brought to the game. And to this very day, Mac Dre remains one of my favorite artists. Some of the people listening, you know what I'm saying, y'all may be unfamiliar with Mac Dre, so I'll just share a little background on him. Mac Dre came up in Vallejo, California, the same place known for producing people like E40, Mac Mall, Be Legit, J Diggs, and many, many others. Dre was actually raised in Vallejo's country club Crest neighborhood, better known as the Crest. It's a predominantly black section located on the city's north side. Since a youngster, Dre had a love for music, and he actually started putting out his own content as a teenager. In 1989, he dropped his EP, Young Black Brother, and a couple years later, went on to deliver another project entitled California Living, which really started building his buzz on a regional level, getting his name out there. He was traveling to different places, doing shows. He had stuff on the radio in the area, so he was really starting to build a name for himself. In 1992, he went on to drop 2 more EPs. One was entitled What's Really Going On, and the other was called Back in the Hood. Something worth pointing out, man, is that Back in the Hood was recorded over a prison phone while Dre was serving 5 years in the feds for conspiracy to commit bank robbery. According to multiple reports, as well as Dre's music, just interviews from different people, he was pretty much guilty by association. It was no secret that Dre was down with the group called the Rumper Room, a collective of guys that represent, the Crest side of Vallejo. According to police, the group was responsible for robbing numerous banks and pizza parlors, and just different establishments throughout Northern California in the 80s and early 90s. And Dre ended up getting caught up in that, man, because he associated with some of the people who allegedly were doing those things. But Dre was never actually caught robbing any places. But, he still received prison time because he refused to cooperate and snitch on his people. Despite his incarceration, in 93, he would go on to drop his first full-length project, Young Black Brother, the album, which was also pretty much recorded while he was locked up. It features some of the songs from his previous projects, but it has some new material on there as well. But yeah, man, he was rapping over the phone. I guess they was recording it and mashing it with the beat, and they put it out. I think that's probably one of the first people to record a project from prison. I know it's people like X-Rated, and I'm sure it may be some others, but to my knowledge, he was one of the first. So that's history right there, I guess after that, Dre really got focused in on just finishing his bid and getting his mind right. So he took a brief hiatus from releasing music. It wasn't until he was released from prison that he started back putting out projects, and he was consistent with it, dropping album after album after album. He also launched his independent label, Thiz Entertainment. And around the new millennium, he really helped introduce the world to the Bay Area's hyphy movement. Something else, man, that I thought was dope is that, although Dre was familiar with the streets, and he had served time in prison, he didn't really let those things define him. He incorporated fun into his music. He danced during his rap shows, had his own little, eclectic style. And he didn't mind lending a helping hand to other artists, on the come up. And those types of things are valuable, especially when you're a rapper, because they distinguish you from other people and just really show, the genuineness in your character. So I appreciate stuff like that, man, just going back and doing my research and just being familiar with his catalog and the videos and the Trill TV, just, the stuff I've come across on YouTube. That's dope, man. And as Dre's fan base continued to grow, he found himself traveling more and more to different cities throughout the West Coast and the Midwest to perform at rap concerts, collaborate with different artists and just mingle with fans. Two of the places he established a strong following in were Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, which from what I understand are just minutes apart from each other. And they both have their own rap scenes going on with the local artists buzzing in those areas. Shout out to Kansas City. There's a few artists that I've stumbled across that represent those areas over the years, and they had some dope music. So shout out to them. But I understand that Kansas and the Bay have always had like some type of connection, and they've shown love to each other, and they've collaborated, so on and so forth. So I guess it only made sense that Dre would be popular in that area, and that would be one of his hot spots, you know what I'm saying? So, but speaking of just traveling there, that's one of the places he traveled to. He would go there periodically to do shows, collaborate, etc. And this is pretty much what unfortunately led to his death. On Friday, October 29th, 2004, Dre, along with several other Bay Area artists like I believe it was the Jacker, Yuck Mouth, Keek the Sneak, and a few others, they all drove to Kansas City, Kansas to perform at a rap concert. Just judging from different interviews, like I saw an interview with Yuck Mouth, that he talked about that the show really wasn't packed and that he could sense like some type of tension between Kansas and the Bay when they were backstage before the performance and after performance, and he was pretty much like, man, I got to get the hell up out of here. Dre ended up sticking around, and he stayed there for the weekend, and while he was there, he ended up getting booked to do like a walkthrough at a Halloween party. According to reports, some type of financial dispute occurred, between him and the promoter who booked him for the event. I guess after he did the walkthrough, maybe the guy didn't have all of the money or something like that. The details are still a little sketchy. But what is known for sure, however, is that during the early morning hours of Monday, November 1st, 2004, Mac Dre was riding in a van on the Kansas City freeway with an associate, when a car pulled alongside the van and just started shooting. The car also reportedly bumped the van, causing it to swerve across the lanes into oncoming traffic and all of that crazy stuff, and ended up eventually crashing, I think, and kind of flipping. And Dre was actually ejected from the van. The driver, he was able to crawl out and call for help, and when, the paramedics, when the police and the ambulance, etc. arrived, they discovered that Dre had been fatally shot, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. After Dre's death, rumors began to spread that Kansas City rapper Fat Tone was involved in the murder, but there was never really any evidence found by law enforcement to support the claims, and, Tone was never actually charged with the crime. On top of that, Tone made it clear, in his music and I guess to his people that he admired Dre and that he never would have any involvement in taking him out. But I guess people still didn't believe him because he already had some type of reputation attached to him. I know he was a Crip, and he had been in different shootouts, etc. And just a lot of controversy looming over him. The following year, in 2005, Fat Tone, as well as his friend Cowboy, were both shot execution style in Las Vegas. Tone was 24 at the time, and Cowboy was 22. They were both killed in retaliation to Dre's murder, according to law enforcement, you know what I'm saying? And the people responsible for the murders are allegedly Bay Area promoters Mac Minister and Jace Corleone. Both of those guys were arrested, charged, and convicted of Fat Tone and Cowboy's murders. They were sentenced to multiple life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole. However, to this day, man, both men have maintained their innocence and they continue to fight for their freedom. But saying all that, man, I just want to do a video on Mac Dre. To this day, his murder remains unsolved. But according to people like Jay Diggs and Vlad TV, etc., whoever was responsible for Dre's murder has also been allegedly killed. Regardless of who was the person or who were the people responsible for carrying out the hit on Dre, the fact remains that they took away someone who was in the process of taking the Bay to the next level, with his music. To this day, Mac Dre remains somebody who I listen to, I enjoy, I respect. Some of his music really connected with me. And he was definitely a special artist, man. And he's definitely a fallen soldier in the hip-hop game. Salute to everybody rocking with AHumbleSoul. If you hadn't hit the subscribe button already, make sure you do so. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Follow us on social media. Grab some merch off our Teespring page, just keep rocking with us, man. Until next time, I'm going to holler at y'all, man. Y'all take it easy, 100.